Alrighty, if you're watching this video, I'm going to show you guys exactly how we turned a $411 ad spend into 21,000 cash collected in 7 days without a sales team, a 52x ROAS, and then 32K cash collected in 15 days. Just to show you guys some proof that we are legit. We did $997 here, a bunch of screenshots of some payments that went through, one-time payments. These are direct sales page. Screenshot down here from the 16th to the 23rd of May in 2025. We did 20K cash collected on our WAP payment processor. We had another 1,000 go through another payment processor. You got to trust me on that. We did 3 different ad creatives. That's a total of $411 from the 16th to the 23rd of May. And another screenshot of some phone notifications from WAP. Just to show you guys that I'm legit. I'll just hit a refresh on this really quick. But this is the WAP account that we ran it through. And yeah, 16th to the 23rd of May, we did 20K cash collected and then 32K in 15 days. So from the 16th to 31st, 29K, we had another $2,000 hit another payment processor as well. So it was 32K cash collected in total. And I'm going to essentially show you guys exactly how we turned $411 ad spend into 21K cash collected in 7 days without a sales team of 52x ROAS. So to get things started, my name is Abe and I graduated with a science degree from the state of California, and I essentially mastered the scientific method. Basically, if you went to high school, you went to college, you took math science classes, yeah, you ask a question, you form a hypothesis, research, test, evaluate, iterate, get a result, right? That's essentially what a scientific method is. And I even started a master's program, but then dropped out, and I saw that most businesses aren't treated with the same process. Today, I apply these strategies full time for online businesses, and I'm about to show you guys exactly how we use this approach to scale a brand new finance offer to 21K in 7 days and eventually 32K in 15 days. So we built a new offer, the marketing and the sales into one machine, delivering a 52x ROAS on just $411 in ad spend with no sales team. That's right, no sales team, no setters, no closers. No, the founder wasn't even involved itself. Like, it was essentially a funnel. Marketing, funnel, sales page, direct to checkout. The offer was $997, and we are not a traditional marketing agency who runs an ad account, builds your funnel once, and never talks to you again. So if you want to learn exactly how to scale your offer with a ridiculous ROI without spending thousands on ads, then keep watching or reading this document. So essentially when we came into this offer and got, kind of hired on for this offer, Top Tier Accounting was the business. Top Tier Accounting is a accounting business based out of Dubai, serving a tiny roster of 7-figure clients. And the founder wasn't taking on any new clients. They didn't want to bring time. They just they had a small team. It was just the founder and a couple other people working on our team, and a lot of female service-based entrepreneurs, like people like nurse practitioners, brand strategists, healthcare consultants, basically were begging for financial clarity, but couldn't afford the founder's annual fees. And to break it down, if you've ever worked with an accountant, basically the way they do their services is like bi-monthly, right? And they just package everything. That's how they get the most amount of money from a client. So the way her system was set up was, in order to even work with her, you needed to make $100,000 a year. That was the baseline minimum. And then it was broken down into 2 tiers. It was a prestigious tier and an upper echelon. And that prestigious started at $1,500 a month, essentially going to $18,000 a year. And the upper echelon tier was $2,000 a month, basically $24,000 a year. And as more revenue you bring in as a business, your pricing would increase as well. Like she would charge you more. So the catch is basically, if you're at that $100,000 minimum, you're not going to be paying that price. Like $18,000 is 18% of your revenue. $24,000 is 24% of your revenue if you're making $100,000. It doesn't make sense for you, right? It's too risky. And those are like margins that you want to play with, because that's even before you even paid your taxes. That's before you even have your personal and business expenses. So you can't, from this, that's where we came in, because we needed to create a brand new offer. Like, these retainers simply made no sense for the businesses at the bottom end of the spectrum that needed guidance the most. So what did we do? Essentially, after we came in and we built our system and we, had this offer launched, we basically validated an offer. We created an acquisition go-to-market strategy. We implemented a whole operation system. We structured the pricing, and then we ended up doing 32K cash collected in 15 days. Now, what I'm about to say below, if any of these qualities below sound like you, then don't waste your time watching this video or reading this document. Just click off, because there's no point if you're not gonna, if this sounds like you. So if you prefer launching offers without market validation, and you only want to launch ads and funnels once and never refine them, click off the video. If you don't want to track data and use it to make your future business decisions, click off the results, click off this video. So let's get straight into it. Essentially, we're gonna break this down into 3 different topics. We have a hypothesis-driven validation offer creation, data-powered ad and funnel creation slash optimization, and then strategic organic storytelling and scarcity activation. And the reason why we have a hypothesis-driven validated offer creation is because when you are launching an offer or you are trying to scale an offer that's already working, you need to basically have a hypothesis. And this is where the whole scientific method comes into approach. Because if you don't have a hypothesis, an educated guess, then where are you going to begin with, right? Because when you're launching an offer, it's not just like a launch and then hope that it works. No, it's a launch. You're based off a guess, an educated guess of what you think the market wants. And then you optimize and you test and you keep refining that offer. That's why it's hypothesis driven. Data powered ad and funnel creation slash optimization. The reason why it's data powered is because you're using the data that you find from the market to then create your funnels and your ads, because you're not just going to like guess and throw a bunch of headlines out and a bunch of copy out based on like guesswork. It needs to be data powered, right? The market needs to want it. You need to know that stuff. It's not guesswork. And the strategic organic storytelling, this is more so for, if you're trying to sell to your organic audience. So the approach, this is exactly how we approach this offer. Because it was a brand new offer and we needed to create something from scratch, we needed to create a foundational argument. This essentially is our sales letter, which is essentially a full-fledged written foundational argument to define the target audience, the pains, the transformations, the offer to the price, basically all tying everything from marketing to sale. So because we had no defined offer or who it was for and why they needed it, we needed to do this. Then we can move into the ads, the funnel, the tech and operations, and then obviously testing based off of the data that we get. So let's get into the first topic, which is the hypothesis-driven validated offer creation. So because of the fact that we were creating this offer from scratch, it needed to be hypothesis-driven, because basically meaning an educated guess that needed to be tested to see if it ties to a specific audience. The goal is to create a foundational argument or persuasive like North Star document that establishes our audience's pain, the promised transformation, and feeds directly into all marketing, the funnel, and the sales. Because imagine not knowing why the customer buys, but then trying to piece together marketing pieces, a funnel, and managing your sales team. It's impossible, right? If you have, your ad copy saying one thing and then your funnel saying another thing, and then your setters reaching out to your prospects saying another thing, and then once they get on the sales call with you and you're saying another thing, it's not aligned, right? So then that customer is eventually not going to buy, right? Because it's not guided. When you're working with a prospect, you basically have to guide them to the sale, and if they're not getting guided properly, they're not going to buy, right? There's going to be hesitation, there's going to be a bunch of objections. So you can't scale when all of these channels are disconnected, which is why you need a foundational argument to tie it all together. So what is a foundational argument? Right? So what we basically need to do, and this is like, I'm showing you guys exactly what we did and also what you need to do to scale your business or your offer, is you need to basically dig deep and find out exactly what ICP wants, right? You need to figure out the messaging framework. And the way you do this is you essentially sit down with your customers. Even if you don't have customers, you can still call people, you can message people, reach out to the people that you essentially want to sell to, figure out the pains, right? So for our situation, we already had kind of an understanding of what the market wanted from this niche, because there were a bunch of people who essentially were already wanting these accounting services, but they just couldn't afford it. So we needed to figure out why they couldn't afford it and why they weren't going to buy it. So what we did in our case to our client is we had a 90-minute workshop with the client to basically mine all their calls. So every single sales call they ever took, figure out why there was price objections, why they didn't want to buy, what were the pains, what were the fears, what were their desires, and what were like kind of like their desire to like, or what was holding them back, right? So that's the reason why we need to that's what we need to figure out. That's the most important thing, because every single line of copy that you write, whether it's your emails, your funnel, your ads, it needs to speak directly to that customer. And it can't just be generic, right? Because if you just go on ChatGPT and you say, hey, tell me what accountants or accounting clients are looking for. No, like nobody's going to, it's going to be generic, and everyone's going to know it's not real. You need to go ahead and actually like take the language from that actual customer and put it into your own system. And then once you structure that into one big document, right? You have an attention grabbing headline. You can do obviously different variations. You have your sub headlines, your proof, who this is for, what exactly the options are. Is it whether you go with us, and the option 2, if you don't go with us, who it's for again, the offer, the bonuses, etc. And it's just basically this huge document on why the customer should buy from you and you only. So, but here's what most founders get stuck, right? They think they need a different funnel, better ads, when the problem is they don't have a no-brainer offer. And this is exactly why you have to focus on your ICP and getting that document written and figured out, because you need to figure out why they're going to buy from you. It needs to be a no-brainer, right? And that's why people throw in a bunch of like, guarantees or bonuses and stuff like that, or offer free things to get a purchase from you, because you need to basically make a no-brainer. And if you do everything besides the dirty work, you're never going to sell. So you need to understand your ICP, and this is the most foundational or most important part. And then that's when you get into building all the other assets for your offer, right? So moving into the second topic, which is data-powered ad and funnel creation and optimization, because once you create it, you don't just stop. You test and you iterate. So once the offer is created / validated, meaning you create the offer and it was validated by the market, meaning you actually called or listened in on past sales calls, or you reached out to prospects on LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever the case might be. Once that's validated, then you can create your offer. Then you can start to craft ad creatives in your funnel and all the copywriting that goes with it. So, and the reason why you can do this is because it's built on a proven, validated offer. And your audience insights, meaning the data that you collected from your ICP, can now be turned into scalable tests. And the reason why it's scalable tests is because you're not going to create it once and let go of it. You're going to continue to iterate, because even if it works, and most likely it will work because you tested it, you found the data, you knew exactly what the ICP wants. Now you just got to sell it, and it'll most likely sell. But what's going to happen is you're going to encounter problems, and you're going to figure, or there's going to be plateaus, and what you're going to do is you're going to use those tests and you're going to iterate on them. You're going to figure out a way on how you can make it grow better. And then you eliminate guesswork in ad creative and messaging, right? Like you're not going, like I said previously, you're not going to go to ChatGPT, or you're not going to go and like say, oh yeah, this sounds nice in my head, so I'm going to put it on the funnel. Like, no, that's not the case. You're going to eliminate that guesswork by doing the research that you're going to do before you create the ads, the funnels, and the copywriting. And then you're just going to continue to drive improvement from this. So this is an example of how our first funnel looked. Essentially, we were attacking service-based entrepreneurs and their finances. Basically, like the problem that they were having was a mess, meaning they needed a CPA. And then we basically attacked the pain, like no one taught you the right system, because we also found out through data that a lot of people tried other options but it never worked. So then you validate and iterate based off that data that you find. So after your system goes live, the real work begins, right? Now you're testing, now you're learning, and you're optimizing in rapid cycles. So the 3 things that you need to do is you need to launch fast, you need to learn fast. The second thing you need to do is you need to mine for the one insight that actually moves the needle. Because once you plateau, you find that one thing that needs to get fixed that's going to move the biggest needle, and then you're going to attack that one. And then you're going to double down on it, on what actually works. So a lot of founders don't ever iterate on the launch. You have to look back at the data and fix any leaks that happen, because you're not going to get it right off the rip. So moving into the first section, launching first and learning fast. So the moment our offer launched, meaning like this top tier offer, we ran ads for 3 days and we let it sit. We didn't do anything. And that should be enough time to answer these 2 questions, which is there actual demand, and are we reaching the right people? And the reason why you do this, you don't change anything in the first few days, is because you want to let the data accumulate. You want to let the market do what the market's going to do and figure out if there's actual demand and are we reaching the right people? And you'll have the answer after 3 days. So for us, basically, you're going to see what works, see what doesn't, and learn and fix. So right off rip, we were able to find out that on our first day, it obviously worked, right? We were definitely getting the demand. There was definitely demand, and we were definitely reaching the right people. So we did 6K on launch in 1 day from, whatever the time span of that is. And then we spent, $52 on ads that day. And our click-through rate was like 8%. So we knew, 8% average over the 3 different ad creatives. We knew that we were reaching the right people, because that's a high click rate. In our case, these early numbers validated the demand, that the demand existed, and we were reaching the right audience, but growth plateaued after the launch. So after the launch day, we did $4,000 from the 17th to the 20th, and we ended up spending $250 from that time span. That was basically meaning we only made 1 sale a day, so we knew something was wrong. So as a founder, when you are in this situation, you need to be able to see the cracks, learn from them, and then optimize quickly, which leads us into mining for that one insight that moves the needle. So what we were able to figure out from the situation, when we knew we plateaued, we only were making a sale a day, 997, which is really horrible. Basically, we figured out that growth stalled, right? We plateaued. So we focused on our quiz responses. What we ended up seeing was, if you go back to this question or this first page of the funnel, we ran a quiz funnel. We wanted to basically have leads because it was a brand new offer. We need to learn from them. We need to learn from the market for the people who are actually going to be purchasing. And we figured out, basically we had two options. You can manage your cash flow and knowing what's profitable, and reducing taxes and finding the right deductions. And our question for that was, where do you feel most stuck in your business finances? Everything in our funnel was based off of this initial, or this question response right here, reducing taxes and finding the right deductions. Every single part of the funnel was based off of that, including the ad copy, including the emails that we were sending to leads who didn't purchase or who opted in. And we quickly realized that that wasn't the case. If you go back and we look back at the data, we assumed tax savings would carry the offer, but over 60% of the respondents flagged cash flow clarity as their top pain, which is exactly opposite of what we were painting in our offer, in our ad, our copy, our funnels. And that single insight became our lever for the next round of messaging. So once we figured this out, after we made the changes, we quickly seen the growth, and I'll show you guys in a bit. But as a founder, when your funnel stalls, whether it's a VSL to call funnel or VSL to application, you have to basically lean on your KPIs to pinpoint exactly which stage is leaking prospects, so you can then fix the choke point and regain momentum. In our case, it's very different because we ran a quiz funnel and we didn't have any sales team involved. It was direct to checkout. But in most cases, most people are doing VSL to call or VSL to application. In that case, you need to look at your KPIs, right? Like if you're not booking, let's say like you launch and you do like same thing as us, right? You do 6K on launch day, but you plateau. You need to figure out, and like, let's say a problem is like you're not booking as many calls as you were the first week, let's say, for example. Well, you need to go ahead and look at the different KPIs. Well, look at your lead to book rate. Why aren't as many leads booking as they were previously? And then you can kind of pinpoint that back. Okay, well, if you're having a VSL to call funnel, essentially you're probably going to have a setter involved. So you need to go look at those setter SOPs. What's happening? What's the how fast are the leads, or how fast is the setter getting to the lead? What's the messaging? Are people responding to the setter's messages to book that call? Those are all the KPIs that you need to look at to then, pinpoint. Once you find that problem, then you refine it. So like, let's say, for example, the setter is, responding too long or taking too long to respond to a lead. Well, then that's your problem, right? And you need to make sure that setter is getting there quickly. Let's say the setter is getting there quickly, but the messaging sucks and it sounds like AI or botted, and the lead just doesn't respond to that setter. Well, that's your problem too. So then once you find those problems, then you just double down on them, right? So then this is when we move into the third section, which is doubling down on what works. So now that you understand what's causing the issue, you now double down on it. In our case, we knew that our messaging was off. We were originally speaking about taxes and how to save on them, but the market was in demand for cash flow messaging, right? They wanted to figure out how they can make more profit or how they can keep more of their profit and handle their cash flow because it was a mess, right? So we were completely off. So then we shifted literally 80%. And as you can see here, like a good amount, about like 30% of the people who were, opted into the funnel still said that they were having tax problems. So we still kept that in the mix. We just lowered it 20%. So we shifted 80% of our ad variations and our funnel copy and emails to speak the messaging of cash flow and profit, and the remaining 20% on taxes. Because when you're in a situation when something is not working, but you know why, then you need to make the change quick, because this is where you'll see the most growth. So after we made that change, obviously there's a bunch of other stuff that happened that, we changed up, but this was our biggest indicator for us. This is the impact of the changes. So after making the necessary changes after the 21st, which essentially we were only making $1,000 a day from that span of 4 days, we started seeing changes drastically, right? So our average conversions increased a lot, right? So in conversion after updates, we went to 21.7% on our funnel from 8.7% originally, and we peaked on May 22nd at 25.9%. Our ad engagement, right? Our VSL ad creative, which is the name of the creative, that's why it says VSL ad. Our click-through rate rose from 8.41% to 8.75%, and it peaked at 10.81% on May 22nd, right? This is right after we made the changes. And our revenue generated after the changes increased as well. So by May 23rd, revenue reached $11,000 over just 2 days, right? So we made $11,000 in 2 days. And then our total revenue hit $21,000 in 7 days with $411 in ad spend. And our client only wanted a select few attendees for this workshop, so we shut down the ads after 21K generated, right? It was 7 days, we did 21K. The client was like, I don't want to help that many people, so let's shut off the ads. And then a couple days went by, and the client wanted more cash. and didn't want ads on. So we just introduced an organic push to generate more cash, right? So essentially this entire section, right? This entire process of mining for that one insight and doubling down on what works, you basically you just have to keep testing and iterating, and because it's critical for any offer because they let you validate real demand, right, with minimal spend before scaling. You uncover true pain points so your messaging hits right on target. You eliminate funnel bottlenecks by tracking drop-offs and tightening each step for higher completion, and then you drive dramatic performance gains because you're allowing yourself to adapt to what the market wants and not what you want. So none of this is possible if you launch once and never fix anything, right? This is why founders who launch a new offer or try to scale an existing offer fail, because they look past the constant validating and testing of the offer. Now, essentially, we did this launch, right? And we did 21K cash collected in 7 days. If we were to keep going, because we only did this once, right? If we were to keep going, there would be more problems, right? But we would have to keep testing and iterating. Like, this is an evergreen type of business model for sure, this offer, because there's always going to be people who don't want to pay 13K, 14K, 15K for a CPA year round when they can just get the knowledge from a 5-day webinar for $997. You know what I mean? Like, they'll and apply the knowledge themselves. So this is why this business model is always going to work, and this offer will always continue to work. But the thing is that the market's always going to change, and they're always going to want different things at different times. So you need to be able to keep looking at your KPIs, keep looking at, all the data, and then reiterating and iterating off that data. So now let's move into the third topic, which is strategic organic storytelling and scarcity activation, essentially just story sequences, right? If you have a good audience organically, that's where you're going to make the most money, right? So we hit our goal 21K in 7 days. So we shut off the ads to keep the workshop exclusive, right? And a couple days later, the client still wanted more revenue, but didn't want to restart paid ads. So we basically leveraged our organic audience, right? We did this organic typical story sequence, right? We did, we basically pitched her audience through luxury. To convert them, you need to sell the dream, not the product. That means showcasing the life your workshop enables, right? So like, people were going to show up to her 5-day webinar and say, hey, if you fix your finances, if you, fix your cash flow issues, your life can look like this too, right? So we posted a bunch of luxury stuff, travel photos. This client was actually traveling from Dubai, where she's based out of, to New York for her birthday. So we just used the opportunity and said, hey, why don't you just post your flight? Because, she flies Emirates first class. So we did that. So just kind of an example of what these story sequences look like, right? It's just a traditional 7 to 10 posts on our story, like eating caviar in first class because God wouldn't have it any less. Tried being low key, but Psalm 23 said he prepares a table, and clearly it came with a window seat, highly favored. Hospitality, right? Showing the bar in Emirates, showing the Emirates first class, or the people picking her up in JFK, showing her doing the shower, right? So we recognize the audience's cash flow struggles, and they desire to enjoy a more luxurious lifestyle, right? That was their biggest pain. And to seize their attention, we flooded our client's feed with highlights from her recent trip to New York, completed with Emirates first class, right? She was seat 1A. It's very eye-catching, right? Because that's what people actually want. When people follow you on social media, they don't really care about your business model. They really care about how your lifestyle is, because that's what you're posting, right? So that's the hook. And we posted the reels. We also offered incentive, right? Like, hey, she was very happy with the results, and she was totally fine with her, she only spent $400 in ads, made 21K in 7 days. So she was like, oh, I'll just fly somebody out too. Let's see if we can make more money from it. So to fly somebody out, if they join the workshop, the flight was going to be paid for, the hotel was going to be paid for, and a one-on-one mentorship directly from her, right? And from that, we did 9K organically in basically 12 hours from just this organic sequence, and also the bonus, right? Because like I said previously, all the way up here, one of the biggest things that makes your offer stand out is having a bonus, having some type of a guarantee or a bonus, something that's going to catch somebody's attention. Like, oh, well, it's a no-brainer offer. These are the things that you need to have in your offers to scale them. So we did $9,000 organically, and the end result was 32 signups. We did 32K in cash collected in 15 days with a total of $411 in total ad spend. I just broke my pen. But yes, 32K cash collected in 15 days, and it was 21K in 7 days. So we scaled this offer really, really fast. But at the end of the day, it came down to knowing who the customer was, what their pains were, what was the desire, right? If you just you listening to me and hearing me right now, you're telling me you're not going to pay $997 to get the same value that you can get that costs, up to $18,000 to $24,000 a year. You're not going to pay $997 for it? No, of course you are, right? And you just throw these incentives and these bonuses in there, and it just makes a no-brainer offer, right? This is an evergreen type of business model, an offer that's going to continue to just scale and scale and scale and scale. So these are the offers that actually make money and make a lot of profit, right? And you can apply them into your own business as well, because it's not just this business model. This applies to all business models. So you just need to make it clear, and you need to have a structured argument. You need to know why the buyer is going to buy, what their pains are, what their transformation, like what's the transformation they're looking for, why your offer is the best offer compared to every other offer, right? Because you have competition. And that's how you're going to get results. And as a founder, you need to understand that you cannot guess. You need to continuously test rapidly, because even if you do a launch, right, a lot of founders will just, people in the online space will do launches, and they'll just continue to do launches because they can't sustain their work, the profits, right? Or they can't sustain revenue. You want to create an offer that's going to consistently do 10, 20, 30K a month. You don't want to just do these launches every 3 months, 4 months, because that's not how you grow. So if you know your offer is good, it's validated, but you're missing the playbook on how to actually grow fast, then this is for you. You just literally cannot grow by your offer by yourself. It's impossible with the amount of time it takes to grow your business, film content, etc. It's just impossible to do it by yourself. So if you're looking for insight on how to do this exactly what I just shared with you, just send me a message on Instagram or Twitter, or you can book a call directly with me. I'll get back to you personally. But yeah, peace.